Exile, wilderness. These metaphors have been most helpful during these past weeks, as we have found ourselves in our own sort of exile and wilderness, in these stay-at-home orders as we seek to try to flatten the outbreak of the coronavirus, which is ravaging our planet. We were reminded of the Israelites who wandered in the desert and were hungry and lost and thirsty and wondering if God was with them. We are reminded of the Israelites when they were in exile in Babylon, away from their sacred, beautiful temple, in which they surely felt and sensed the presence of God. We are reminded that the Israelites posed that poignant, powerful question in the 19th verse of Psalm 78, when they railed against Moses and said, "Can God spread a table in the wilderness? Can he satisfy the longings that confront us now? Is he able to do this? Is God with us or not in this wilderness?" I want to remind us all that the wilderness was a special place for Israel. It was the place that God encountered them and taught them. It was the place where God trained them to be his people. And yes, it was the place where God fed them and spread a table for them. For the entire time that they wandered, God rained down manna upon them to eat, heavenly bread, which nourished them. And when they had cravings for meat, he sent quails into their camp. And when they were thirsty, Moses struck the rock, and water gushed forth. God provided for them in their wilderness. God also provided for others who were hungry throughout our story of salvation history. When Jesus gathered with his disciples and thousands others upon a hill by the Sea of Galilee, he took scant provisions and turned them into a feast for thousands. The people were certainly wandering in their own wilderness, and he gave them bread from heaven through his teachings and his words, and he also satisfied their physical hunger. Can God spread a table in the wilderness in which we currently find ourselves? We are afraid, we are anxious, and we are cut off from the connections that we normally enjoy this time of year, cut off from our churches, and cut off from our usual practice of receiving the Eucharist. Can God spread a table even in this wilderness? You'll recall in the scriptures that after the crucifixion, the disciples were hunkered down behind locked doors, afraid for the threat that was outside the doors. Does that sound familiar? We certainly are hunkered down, aren't we? Behind our own locked doors, and we have good reasons for doing that. We care about those around us and want to keep them safe, and so we hunker down behind these doors that keep out the threat of the coronavirus. But Jesus found those disciples even while they were hunkering down. He sought them out and came to them. He came to them in his resurrected bodily form, and he gave them what they were looking for, a Messiah. Can God come to us? Doesn't he seek us just as much as we hunker down in our own fears and fortresses of anxiety? He seeks us and comes to us. You see, we worship a God who will call into existence the things that do not exist. We worship a God who stands for life where life does not exist, who overcame death by rising to life again. God will spread a table for us. And so as we greet this Easter morning, which comes after this Holy Week, we can rest assured that God is preparing a feast for us in ways that we cannot even imagine. Yes, we are making sacrifices for the good of others. I would remind us that the word sacrifice means to make holy. When you contemplate the things that we are all sacrificing during this time of Holy Week and Easter, how can we understand that we are doing this to make something holy? How can we understand that that which we sacrifice will bring about a presence of God that is far stronger and more palpable than we could possibly imagine? Take up your cross. Come, walk with me as we walk the way that Christ walked, the sacrifices that he made, the things that he made holy. Let us in our own small way join with him, making our own sacrifices, so that when Easter morning arises, we will see God in the very midst of us.